Yo, what's up guys? Is my mic working? I don't even know. Hold up. I need to check this. Okay, yes it is. Cool. How's everyone doing? Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Let's just get straight into it. Okay, so first of all, I want to talk to you about an extremely concerning what's the word? Display of manipulation. And you guys know I've said it many times, I do not assign importance to manipulation the way most other people do. I do acknowledge that there's manipulation. I do acknowledge that it probably controls the whole market. Today is a classic example of it. SIBO futures expiry happened today at about 5 p.m. UK time. I believe it was 6 p.m. UK time, something like that. It was just 4 hours ago, whatever. With this 4-hour candle, let's focus on this one. All right, so it's now the most recent 4-hour candle. What we had was, turn off the indicators as well. What we had was a green 4-hour candle, which was around about 6,500, potentially just about here. Slightly green, if not fairly heavy green candle, and it was backed by volume. So this is a very big deal. What this told us was that, well, first of all, this rising wedge formation, perhaps we should acknowledge this first. We were in a some sort of a bear flag, some sort of a bearish continuation pattern. We did dump down. We formed a rising wedge. You guys in Crypto Mafia Gold, link in the description, completely free. You guys did get my post there where I mentioned that we are in a rising wedge. Zoom into the 1 hour, we're setting higher lows and higher highs, and so that indicates, especially with the volume dropping off, look at how the volume dropped off. So we had a fairly large dump off with red volume. We started consolidating higher. Again, if I replay the chart up to a point like this, this is so clearly a rising wedge formation, which would play out something a little bit. We had a rising wedge back here as well, typical. Play out something like this and then dump down again. Of course, though, we know in hindsight now, being the beautiful thing that is not what happened. And so actually what happened is we continued rising up higher, and then eventually we got this big green volume buy candle. We got a fairly large volume pump on this, and of course this was done by the bots. If we zoom into the 1 hour, you can see how there was completely dead volume down here, and then suddenly for about 3 minutes or whatever, just a huge buy. No doubt, no question, it was bots. And so what that does tell us is obviously there's a lot of manipulation going on. This rising wedge, which should have meant that we're going to go down, actually resulted in moving up higher. Of course, while it's completely unexpected and uncalled for and really shouldn't have happened, we did have warning signs of it. So again, I posted those in VIP and Gold saying to close short positions, because we did have a couple warning signs telling us that we were going to go higher, and so we did prevent ourselves from getting liquidated there. It is all about risk management. So of course, first of all, never going all in. Doesn't matter how many times I say that, people will still do it. And also to only go in with a small percentage of your portfolio, so that if you do get liquidated, you only lose. If you enter with 5%, the most you have as a loss that day is a 5% loss in your entire portfolio. So if you're exercising good risk management the way we do in VIP, when we make our bigger trades, we get a 2-3x gain. That 5% doubles and it starts to take up a bigger amount of your portfolio. But if you still suffer that loss, you can recover. That's why risk management is so important. Now, moving on to what we actually saw here, this 4-hour candle was actually a green candle, and so the volume was also green. This is a big volume pump candle, and it was a green candle, so that was a very good sign. Now, what happened in the closing minutes of this 4-hour candle? We've gone on to the 1 hour here. We go to, where did this 1 hour close? So, around about here, I believe. I've lost it. Yeah, I'm not too sure. But just before this 4-hour candle did close, it did end up going red. And so suddenly what became the case is, instead of having a green pump candle, we actually had a red dump big volume candle. Now, of course, if we do zoom into the 1 hour and the 1 minute, as I did show you a little bit earlier, that volume all came in on a pump. All of that volume was on a pump. So it's a good sign. Again, we go to the 2 hour and it tells us the same story. I mean, we had a bit of a reaction. Well, this is quite a big bearish engulfing candle on the 2 hour. We had a reaction, but on lower volume. So the volume was still siding with the bulls. Of course, we look at the general trend after this dump, and the green volume was still higher than the preceding red volume. So again, a good sign for the bulls, at least for us to go up to 68. I'll get to that in just a second. But onto this, back to this manipulation point that I started when this stream went live. If you can smash up those likes as you are coming in, guys. It ended up going red just before the candle closed, and so that is telling us that even though we had a bullish bias at the time, a short-term bullish bias, it ended up closing red just minutes before the 4 hour close, and this was done by bots. This was I think it was actually a controlled sell-off, so it can still be done by bots, but the fact that it, like I said, I think it's a controlled sell-off, I think that's actually a good thing. It's a good thing that we're getting more natural movements, so we haven't really been having bot patterns. This could look like a bot pattern to the untrained eye, but we did end up going slowly. We should have had a few more setbacks to make it a more controlled ascension, but we went up slowly. We didn't bot up with one bot candle like that and the other one going down. So actually this was a pretty good sign that we saw. We're seeing natural movement within these markets. We're now seeing Bitcoin inch a little bit higher. Check out the volume on that. Yeah, so a little bit of volume, really nothing too interesting. Now, the significance of this, with SIBO expiring today, like I said a couple of hours ago, with all the manipulation going on, with the fact that basic charting analysis, take this off now, would have told us that we're going to break down, but instead we just kept on rising higher, and then with volume to confirm it, huge red flags from where I'm seeing this, extremely concerning. It's hard to say what could happen right now. It looks like we are botting back up. The volume isn't huge though. I knew that we were in Discord, in the VIP Discord, talking, and I was like, I picked a bad time to stream because I knew that while going live we'd get a big movement. What can you do? As for the actual trend though, there is a little bit of talk of a head and shoulders pattern. If I plot that real quick, you guys know I don't like head and shoulders patterns, but this one is working out pretty well. So if we do draw this real quick, don't really want to give it much time because I don't like head and shoulders patterns. But you know, we've got the left shoulder hair, we've got the head, which is massive compared to the shoulders, and we're now potentially forming the right shoulder, and this is where a lot of the resistance lies. Now, a great thing about this is we've actually got resistance sitting right at 6,800, telling us that we could end up going up to 6,800. If we look at the volume on this, we do have a couple more hours, about 2.5 hours roughly, before this green candle closes, and so the chances are it's going to end up, this daily candle is going to end up closing with higher volume than the previous daily candle. And of course that daily candle was a bullish hammer. So if you guys don't know, a bullish hammer, take off all these lines, is where you end up wicking very low, but the candle closes much higher. So what that means is bears tried to drive the price lower, but bulls made it recover and made it actually go up a little bit. So that's actually a very good sign. That's a bullish hammer, and so we are seeing something sort of similar. This can be considered a bearish hammer because what we've got is a wick high and now a retracement. So if this were to close at about 6,300, that would be a bearish hammer. It would represent a huge amount of uncertainty, which of course we know we've got plenty of in this range. Like I said, 6,800 is looking like the top. The one-day EMA resistance is telling us that the one-day Ichimoku cloud, I mean, it couldn't line up more perfectly than this, is also telling us, so this is the 4 hour, the one-day Ichimoku resistance is telling us the same thing. We have our Ichi cloud. Today it's right at 6,800, and in the following days it is just, you know, $100, $200 higher than that. It lines up amazingly. You know, were we to test this cloud again, I think it's the likelihood is actually rising, obviously. I think there's a chance that we could end up testing it and then getting rejected. And of course, you guys know I've been saying it for many days now on stream. The fact that we've failed our third rally, Alessio mentioned this as well, the fact that we've failed our third rally is telling us that we are actually quite bearish, and it's going to stay that way for a little bit. So we're talking weeks, maybe even months, and so that means the money will be made in shorting the market. Now, when we are talking about shorts, I went over this in a lot of detail in a VIP stream today. It's like 25-minute stream. We went over in-depth analysis of all possible scenarios with regards to these shorts. It's a huge point of contention in the crypto space right now. I actually pulled up this article which I went over in VIP, and what this does tell us is everyone has their eyes on a short squeeze right now, and that leads to a lot of very important conclusions that you might be able to draw from this. It's quite an important thing. I went over that in the VIP stream, guys. If you are interested, go ahead and hit me up. Just one of the messages I got, I can't remember now, a couple days back, maybe 2-3 weeks, whatever. At least we're in profit. Someone here making profit at the beach. I am so excited personally for being able to drive my Teslas tomorrow, and I'm finally living out my dream, which was to be able to sustain a life on the road, traveling, plane, car, boat, doesn't matter. And this guy already doing it at the beach and making profits was mind-blowing for him. It's the dream life, as I said. Guys, if you are interested in VIP, go ahead and hit me up. The link in the description will take you to Crypto Mafia Gold. Click on my name at the bottom of Posts in Gold at 4Flies and just ask me how to join, and I will give you those details. Now, on to the rest of the market. We've got 13... Actually, this needs to refresh. It's not 13, it's 14 billion now. So we've got $14.3 billion volume. This slightly confirms our current movement up. Of course, if we go to the 4-hour, well, 2 hours more reliable in this case, what it is telling us is that we've had a big green buy, and of course that is being somewhat reflected in the volume. Like I say, we want to see volume that's going to be about 15 billion, and it still hasn't even breached that level. So really anything below 15 billion is still weak, and until that changes with green volume even, my bias will remain bearish for the mid-short term. Bitcoin dominance continuing to rise. 53, I think it pushed nearly 54 earlier today. We're up 4% with Bitcoin, and the rest of the market doing a lot better than Bitcoin today. So we've got 16% on Lisk, Quantum 14%. Went over this in the VIP stream as well. It's been a green day for alt. I mean, they've had a very bloody week. We look at Bitcoin and it's largely just sideways for the past 7 days. I mean, it started this 7-day graph at about the same level it is right now, whereas if we look at the rest of the alts on these 7-day charts, they started up at the top of these 7-day graphs, and they're now just recovering from the lows they've had about yesterday. So still a hugely bloody market for the alts. Of course, they are recovering better than Bitcoin, but the losses are still huge compared to Bitcoin, and of course that is represented most clearly with the Bitcoin dominance. We've got a market cap that's dropping, Bitcoin dominance that's rising, and Bitcoin price that is either rising or going sideways, and so everything points towards alts getting smashed. This is just a weak reaction rally, even though it is being done on a little bit of volume. It's probably not going to stick. We've went over, I mean, hardly any of these alts are at support levels. Actually, NEO, something I want to go over, is in actually, this is the wrong chart. We'll go over to the Bittrex one. NEO is in a nice position right now, long term. It's potentially at support. NEO is one of these coins that you should keep an eye on. Of course, none of this is financial advice, but the reason I'm keeping an eye on NEO personally is that NEO is like Litecoin and a couple of other handful of coins, in that it doesn't really matter what the market is doing. Granted, we do have to be in a bear market, but bull market. But NEO, Litecoin, a couple others, maybe Ethereum, only slightly. These coins will run at different times than the rest of the market. So, for example, what we could see. Anza Bob, how do you find the VIP streams? I posted it in the VIP channel. Just scroll up above this current stream link and you'll find it. With NEO, like I said, it can run in its own time, and so really, if it does fail this support level, it's almost definitely, unfortunately, going down to 57,000 Satoshis. But if not, this is a solid bounce range. This is a solid range to accumulate for long-term investments. NEO, as you will know, is one of my favorite coins. I saw Donald's chart on this, and I wanted to bring that up. Pretty big deal. Donald on Twitter, if you guys don't know him, he's an amazing analyst. I only follow about 3 analysts right now, Alessio, Kirby, and Donald. And that's all I feel I need to to help me with my analysis. All great analysts. Yeah, so in terms of short mid-term movements, we've had volume on the 2-hour, not the 4-hour, confirming that we are going to go a little bit higher. The 2-hour, oh god, what have I done? The 2-hour EMA ribbon is, you may have guessed it, is actually giving us some support. We have actually bounced off this. Now, I mean, if you're watching this even 1 hour after I've gone live, it may have changed completely. I do believe we're going to see some interesting movement at UTC close. This bounce off support was expected. It did happen before. It's a good sign in the short term. I did look previously at if the 2-hour EMA ribbon ever faked us out. And with the exception of when the spread is very low, very thin spread, so when the EMA ribbon is actually doing work, if you guys don't understand what I'm talking about, don't worry. The people who do will know what I mean. With the exception of when the spread is very thin, the only time it's faked us out was somewhere over here. Yeah, so I think it was right over here. Unless I'm mistaken with this, potentially with this, but like I said, the spread is very thin, so we're not paying attention to that. The spread was decent over here, and we ended up crossing bullish. We ended up bouncing off, and then the second bounce led to a dump, and we haven't returned to that level since. So, well, we have, but only briefly. And that was back in May, so it has been 3 months since the 2-hour actually did fake us out. And so that's why I believe it's such a reliable indicator, and it's why I believe that this wick off the 2-hour ribbon is a great sign. So we've even been playing this in VIP today, something I posted as one of the alerts. Onto the 1-hour EMA ribbon, of course, we are seeing a little bit more support. We are seeing volume come in. Really, it's weak volume, though, so this plays into the uncertainty. I've extended my rising wedge line, which potentially gives us support right at 6150. This makes a lot of sense. That orange line is arbitrary. I don't know why I've got it there. This 6150 line, well, 6170 really, where I put it, does line up very well with a possible dump. Can you guys not see my time frame? Yeah, so everything's visible there. This does line up with a possible dump. We could end up going even this low before carrying on higher. But of course, volume is the one to look for. Now, like I've said earlier in this stream, for those of you tuning in now, again, if you can smash up those likes, subscribe, tick the bell and all that good stuff. One of the things to be aware about within this range is most forms of analysis right now are not working. So basic candle patting, the rising wedge we spoke about, hasn't played out. We should have dumped, we didn't. The volume told us we're going to dump, we didn't. So volume has become unreliable, basic candles have become unreliable, RSI is unreliable, has been for a very long time. According to me, other people will disagree. The only thing we've got left is the EMA ribbons. As far as I'm seeing, I mean, I don't use momentum indicators. DMI I'm learning right now, which I think is amazing, by the way. One of our admins in talking about VIP a lot today. One of our admins taught me about DMI today. I do really like that indicator. I might be doing some TA on that, potentially a tutorial or something, once I grow comfortable with it. The main and most reliable, my favorite indicator, as you guys know, is the EMA ribbon. And right now, since this candle did end up closing bearish with big volume, this is telling us we're going to go down. It's almost a typical pattern. It's hard to call it right now. Of course, we know that it should have closed higher. The only reason it didn't was manipulation. But when we consider that it likely is manipulation that controls the whole market, this is still something to be quite concerned about. Let's see what we've got in the chat today. Brace for further impact. Quite possibly. If you like Neo at 16, you'll love it at 12. What else have we got? Bitcoin up to 6,800 and down to. Okay, that's a good question. So yeah, I mean, once it hits 6,800, that's going to be encountering a lot of heavy resistance. So we went over the EMA ribbon, which is going to give us some resistance at that level. The Ichimoku cloud is also going to give us resistance at this level. So, I mean, unless we get a freak, you know, black swan event where we get a pump like on April the 12th, you cannot call these things, you can't even guess these things, so there's no point speculating on it. Unless that happens, really, we are going to almost definitely rejected from this Ichimoku cloud, there's no real incentive for the market to go very bullish right now. Of course, it can come just because of manipulation, but I think the chances of that are fairly slim. So we'll probably end up getting rejected from 6,800, assuming we even go that high. And then the target really, I mean, this would be, first test here. 1, 2, well, I don't think that one counts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a fifth test of what's the word of our low support level, which would be about 5,900, 5,800, and I think we'd almost definitely break it. It also lines up very well if we end up going as high as even 7,000. And the reason for that is we've been setting lower highs. So we topped out at 11,500, and then a couple months later we topped out at 10,000, and a couple months later we topped out at 8,500. So the difference in these drops was $1,600, so roughly 1,500, and then the difference in the drop from 10,000 to 8,500, you've already done the math, is also 1,500. So going from this level down to 7,000, where's that? Is again a square a 1,500 drop, and I can definitely see that happening. There is going to be a lot of people getting wrecked. Very briefly, one of the things I went over in that VIP stream about these shorts is that these shorts are getting very high, and what we need to progress with our trend is for the hope to be lost. There is still hope, I think, and of course, if we are going to go down, then the majority of the money, the dumb money, the majority of the market will not be betting that it's going to go down. That's not going to happen if the market actually ends up dropping support. Most likely, of course, it's possible, but it's very rare that you see the majority of the market being on the right side of such a big play like that. And so that is why I don't think we're ready to end up dropping support just yet. And it's why I've also been considering that hitting something like 6,800 has a fairly high likelihood. Well, I keep on messing up this chart. It's very annoying. Looks like maybe after another pullback creating a higher low. Yeah, Consciousness and Puppies. That's an amazing name, by the way. It does look like we could be setting potentially another higher low. That's why I mentioned potentially, bottoming out at 6,200, 6,150. It could be pretty good. Four Flies, do you agree with McAfee's formula for Bitcoin's inevitable long-term success? Ninja Fist, I think it's crazy. I do not align with that at all. He's calling for levels like 1 million within, 3 years? Look, I mean, I'm a slightly, I'm a day trader, sort of swing trader. I don't even know what's going to happen next week. I can't speak for the long term. Like I said a couple streams ago, I don't believe that technology like this can get left behind while we're evolving with technology. But that doesn't mean I think this market cap is gonna, 30x, 300x. That it's impossible to call those. I mean, it becomes a question of fundamentals, not technicals, and I am not a fundamental analyst. If I were, I would have gotten into the Ethereum ICO. I am a technical analyst making those profits, trading these swings, and so my opinion doesn't really matter as far as McAfee's prediction goes. But were it just you and I in a one-to-one conversation like these streams are, I would tell you I think it's completely bullshit. That's just me. You see, he's running for president, so he needs the publicity. So it makes sense that he's giving that hopium to the whole group. But if you remember back in May, I believe he was calling for crazy 3x gains on many coins by July, and July was actually a low for most of those coins. So what about Zilliqa replacing Ethereum? Compass, I think it's a little bit too early to be calling for replacements for Ethereum. Ethereum is a pretty big one. Again, that becomes a question of fundamentals, and I'm not a fundamental analyst, so again, I'm the wrong person to be asking that. If everyone's waiting for a pump to 6,800, I've heard many talk about it. Does that mean we might not see it? Yes, Quinn Shoners, that does mean we might not see it. That is not being reflected in the longs, though. So if we look at the longs, it's rised up only slightly, but then we zoom out and suddenly it becomes clear that actually the longs are not at any significant level. I mean, it's actually dropped support. It's still in a support zone, but the longs are not responding to that by piling up and betting that we're going to go to 6,800. So not necessarily the case. But yeah, the more people that think about it, the more likely it is that we don't see that range. Just because, like I said, the majority of the market will never be correct about things like this. Unless we're in a bull market, in which case everyone thinks we're going to go higher, and until that stops, we will keep on going higher. But we're not in a bull market, and so it's a if you still think with a shall I say less developed mindset, you'll get wrecked a lot easier. Sammy, do you think that bull run will start from this point? Yusuf, I do not think it will start from this point. It obviously can, but I just don't think it will. He's a crazy dude, but he knows his math. He runs for president just to spread the word of Bitcoin. He doesn't want to win. He just says he said he's not fit for that. Yeah, no, it's possible, Snore, that he's not fit for that. He did get poisoned or something, right? I hope he's doing okay after that. But yeah, no, he's probably not going to win presidency, obviously. But it's good for publicity at the end of the day. I mean, he does more good than bad, I guess, on the whole. But I am personally not a huge fan of his character. All the controversies where he was pumping his own coins. I don't know if you guys remember, many months ago he was listing shit coins and accepting like 20 Bitcoin as payment to shill those coins on his Twitter. And so every time it was a massive like 10x pump, and it's so obvious that he was profiting off that. Yeah, Bitcoin dominance down from 54.5. So like I said, yeah, pushing 54. It did actually go above then. I wasn't around to see that. But like I said, even I think last week now, I was calling for Bitcoin dominance to hit these levels, even when we were down at 30% dominance. And many months ago, I was even saying that we are going to see likely 60% dominance. And I still stand by that. I do think this is going to end up rising a fair bit more before it does drop. Well, just a friend told me, as he's friends of Wales, that it's starting soon. Yusuf, I don't know how to say this kindly, but I would not assign any importance to a friend saying X, Y, Z, especially if it's like, my friend's a whale, so he knows what's going to happen. I've been hearing that throughout 2018, and it's like when a kid lies to you that they didn't eat all the ice cream. I mean, like, you don't even pay attention to it. And yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well for that. What charting site is that? It's TradingView. There's a link in the description for that. Yeah, you can check that out. But yeah, guys, with that, I am going to be heading off. Just wanted to get a quick little, I mean, it's 28 minutes, but wanted to get some analysis in here. Let you guys know what I'm feeling with this market. These climates are terrible. So much manipulation going on right now. Really not a favorable climate right now. Yeah, we'll just have to see how this goes, and then continue moving on forward. Guys, with that, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm going to be signing off. I'm out. Peace.